it's Dashia D.
And it's Jay Stan.
And welcome back to In Retrospect Podcast, where we look beyond the surface to find understanding.
Bring you laughs, knowledge, and culture.
So sit back, relax, and join the combo. So today, we want to welcome back Shatika McCullough, who is an art director, designer, visual artist in Chicago by way of Charleston. And our new guest host, Taylor Simon, who is the education and outreach manager for the Hive Community Circle, which is a survivor-led, survivor-driven support organization helping Black and Latinx women overcome trauma, sexual assault, intimate partner violence, and stalking. And she also has a book blog called Liberation is Lit, which you can find on IG or Twitter at Liberation is Lit or Liberation_lit. So I wanted to welcome them onto the show to dive into the conversation of strong Black women. Mm-hmm. I guess just a lot of different things are going on in the media, specifically social media, that is targeted towards Black women, not all very positive. There's a lot of critiques going on about how we should carry ourselves and how we should be and just exist in the world. So I really wanted to talk about this. So
go
ahead.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it as a whole. I'm going to get involved. I understand I'm not a woman per se, but that's why you guys are here, so you can expound on that. Specifically what it means to be a Black woman in general. Because there's this notion that goes around that, every Black woman is a strong Black woman, and it can have a negative connotation or it could have a positive connotation, depending on who's bringing it up or who's talking about it. So could you guys describe what it means to be a strong Black woman? What does that mean?
I think kind of before like I guess like recent years, being a strong Black woman means like you're resilient, like you kind of hold the family together, you take care of business, you get stuff done when it needs to be done. But I think in recent years, Black women are kind of realizing that like that is like a burdensome role. Like pretty much it kind of means giving up some of your humanity, because you're not really taking care of yourself. You're taking care of everyone else except yourself. And you kind of become this hero that like you didn't necessarily place that cape upon yourself, but like it had to get done, So I think that's kind of like what my view of it is. More so like I lean towards like the latter, that like it's a role that is necessary sometimes, but it doesn't mean like it's like a great role,
Yeah.
I know for me, like I grew up around a lot of strong Black women, like my grandma who like held down the family, my mom who's a single mom with 2 kids, going to school, working 2 jobs all at the same time, and like just watching like them sacrifice to take care of their family and just to get it done, not having time. Like I vividly remember like my mom being like, I couldn't afford to take sick days because I had 2 kids to raise and like I had bills to pay. So like growing up, like they were my heroes, they were my idols because of how much they sacrificed to take care of their families and like how much of themselves that they like gave up to just get it done. And I kind of, as I was like growing up, I kind of adopted some of that mentality of like, like I just need to give all of myself to everybody else and not leave anything for me. And like if I'm having like a day where I'm struggling with my mental health, like, well, my grandma didn't stop, my mom didn't stop, like, so I can't stop. So kind of like what you were saying, Shatika, like giving up part of your humanity in order to just get it done. And Black women don't have that luxury of like taking care of themselves because they're so busy taking care of other people. So that's what I think is like the strong Black woman of like, we're here to like save the world and like do all the dirty work. And sometimes we get praised for it. Most of the times we don't, but it's all about giving so much of ourselves and not really holding enough space for ourselves.
I can definitely agree with that. I feel like as a kid, I felt like that just was the way of life. Like that's just how Black women existed in the world. You take care of everybody else and you're kind of last on your list of priorities. And that's just what it was. What?
I mean, I'm listening. I mean, this is good. After you get finished, of course,
Okay.
I'm gonna put my 2 cents in.
Okay.
It's nothing crazy, man. Not too wild.
Yeah, so I agree with all of that. What were you gonna say?
What I was gonna say was, I know Shatika, hit on it a little bit, and Taylor followed up a little bit on the giving up humanity part. I was curious to know, like, how does that look per se? I know you guys said that, when you give up the things that you want to do, but like, how does that look? What does that entail? Like, what exactly is being given up? Even though we're talking about self-care, like, what are we talking about? What all is being given up?
I think just like the most important thing is like yourself, like kind of like going back to what Taylor said. Like I think about my mom and my grandma and stuff like that, and like they held the family down, and like they were always like the go-tos, like if we needed something, but like they didn't really take care of themselves sometimes, like whether that's like making sure they were healthy, making sure they looked good all the time, like just things like that. Like I know my mom back in the day, she used to dress, like I saw pictures and stuff, but then like as she got older and needed to take care of us.
Okay. She used to put that stuff on.
Yeah, but then like I'm seeing her as like an older woman who's like, burdened with kids by herself that she didn't make by herself, or like just handling business, but like she wasn't dressed up anymore. She wasn't necessarily thinking about, oh, I need to get my hair done, or it's just like you kind of lose parts of yourself. You kind of forget that like the same care that you're giving other people is the care that you need too,
Kind of like I kind of seen the same thing, but especially like when it comes to health, like I remember one story my mom was telling me about, like how she was like working and she felt so sick and she just went in the bathroom, like threw up, kept working. And it's just like at that point you just need to go home, but like she couldn't afford to like go home. Like now since we're older, I'm seeing like the repercussions of like, okay, now my mom doesn't have like little kids to, okay, let's watch Disney movies. Like we're grown now, we have our own lives. So now she's like trying to figure out like what does her life, now that she doesn't have like young children to take care of, looks like.
I feel like those are good examples of how society socializes women to find value in how they show up for other people, basically. So like, how are you as a mother? How are you as a wife, girlfriend, whatever? How are you as an employee of said company versus like, who are you as a person? Like, what's your character? Do you guys consider yourselves to be strong Black women, or have you ever been labeled as strong Black women?
I think I get that label a lot, and I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like a lot of it is colorism because I'm dark skinned.
Okay.
But and because I come off a certain way. Mm-hmm. So like, come off? I come off a little aggressive, a little like blunt, like I don't necessarily need people sometimes, but I think that's just because like that's kind of what I saw, and like I kind of took those same qualities on. So like I wouldn't necessarily ask for help other than like maybe like close people who really like know me. But I think all of that together kind of like makes people feel like I'm okay, like I'm good. Like I've never necessarily like, since I've set out on my own as an adult, like failed in anything, or like, how can I say this? Like pretty much like a lot of people see me as like, okay, she's successful, she doesn't need anything, or she's good. So like I remember when I was kind of like going through depression really, really bad, like I hit rock bottom. I was really struggling because I don't think no one took it seriously. And so like I started really telling them like how I was feeling and like my thoughts and stuff at the time. And like I remember like getting phrases like, oh, you're Shatika, you'll be all right. And I'm like, I just told you I'm about to kill myself. Like literally, like after I told someone I was suicidal, they were like, yeah, Shatika, you good. Okay.
Yeah.
So like I definitely think that gets put on me like a lot. And I think as I become more expressive, because I do think it's like a two-way street. I've become more expressive and like let my friends and family in a little bit more, so they know like, okay, no, she's not always good all the time, Yeah. But I do think sometimes people place it on you when like you look like you have it all together, Now.
Okay, so the biggest thing is that they believe you're always self-sustaining. You're self-sustaining is what you would say, right? So
Yeah.
when you do say something, it comes as a, oh, she, yeah, she just talking. She don't mean that. She'll figure it out.
Yeah, like I've literally had like friends who were going through depression too, and then like, you know, I'm thinking, oh, we sharing stuff. This is a safe space, and then they're like, well, you don't really understand because you have a job, or you don't really understand because da 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 da, and I'm like, just because I have like these material things or something like that, like it doesn't mean that like mentally I'm not like I'm not dealing with stuff, right? I don't have my own trauma and stuff that I've been through. For me to be seen as strong and like the way I have adapted is because I have been through a lot of stuff. Like I've had to do that, you know? It's not that I want to be that way. It's just like you kind of have to.
And depression is a spectrum and it looks different on different people. I lost my train of thought, but also kind of like what y'all said, in childhood, if you saw your mother, you didn't really know if she was struggling with something emotionally because she didn't want you to have that burden. So if you've already seen that, then that's what you're going to do as you get older.
Yeah, I would also say like one of the biggest things that I try to do, me personally, with my mother and most women in my life, because, you know, at times you can always fall short. It's real simple as, you know, giving a phone call, a text saying, oh, I hope you were good. I'm thinking about you. And it can go vice versa for the men in your life as well. But, you know, in my opinion, I know that most women, especially Black women, deal with a lot on a day-to-day basis. So it, you know, it never hurts to send like that text, especially the ones that are closest to you. Even,
no, I definitely agree.
Even the women, like as y'all can send texts as well to other friends of yours or the women in y'all's lives, and it really does go a long way. But it's all a mindset thing. Everybody always thinks they don't got time, but it don't take that much time.
I'm about to say, you got 3 seconds.
I mean,
yeah, definitely. I will say like that's something that is like recently been changing for me. Like now I get those like, do you need anything texts? And like I never used to get those. So like it is like I do appreciate it because like sometimes I just need to talk, or like I don't know, maybe I just need like support or comfort or something, and like getting that now it encourages me to like actually like go deeper with my emotions and like actually like kind of show vulnerability. I don't like doing it still, but because like I don't know, like I do sometimes, like I think it's like a Black woman guilt a little bit, because like I saw my mom and my grandma, my sister like dealing with stuff that sometimes I see as like worse, you know, than whatever I'm going through. And I know you shouldn't compare, you know, of course, like
I mean, we're human.
Yeah,
It's really,
yeah.
we're human though. Like at the end of the day, like you're saying you shouldn't, but you can easily do it.
yeah, it's just something that you slip into as a human being. But
Yeah.
I know for me, like I'll always compare, and I'm like, well, they dealt with this and they got through it, so I need to do it too. And I see myself as like weak, but then I'm like, girl, no, you need to deal with your emotions. Like, cry, go ahead, it's okay. Like, it's okay. The world is not gonna end. You'll get it together still, but like, express your emotions. You know?
Yeah.
Would you say that, like, this is a question for everyone, when it comes to like expressing your emotions or becoming in tune with your emotions, would you say it's taxing because growing up you were taught to, you know, sometimes express your emotions when there's always a right time to express yourself per se, and they'll tell you, oh, you need to not act out or say what's in your mind in this instance because that's out of line type stuff.
I try to aspire to be the strong Black woman because I feel like I'm not, because of like, okay, so I'm a Cancer. I'm obsessed with zodiac sign. I'm a Cancer, so like I'm like feeling some type of way all the time, and sometimes I feel like growing up being like the oldest child of like a single mother, I've conditioned myself to like always like keep my emotions to myself because I want to make other people's lives easier. I don't want to give my mom a hard time. So like I'm like that therapist friend who like, okay, I'm sending the check-in text, like I'm making sure everybody's straight. Like if somebody's having a hard time, they know to call me. But like I'm more hesitant because I feel like sharing my emotions, because I feel them so often, is a burden to other people. So I try not to talk about my feelings a lot.
I feel like strong has to mean absence of feelings, though. I know that's what we've been taught. What? Oh,
no, hold up. No, I want to say something because you're saying that it can be it's not supposed to say absence of feeling.
Yeah.
But when you do show feeling, then people say you crazy.
Thank you.
No. Pause. People who are not emotionally available call you crazy. People who are intact and emotionally intelligent, they're not going to say you're crazy. First of all, if you're going to go talk to somebody, please make sure that they're safe to talk to. Second, I typically ask my friends, or I'll say, hey, I've had a bad day. Do you have the bandwidth to listen to me vent? Because if they don't, meaning, do you have the energy to take on what I'm about to say to you? If not, I will leave you alone and share the love somewhere else. But I don't think that being strong has to mean that you don't have feelings. Because honestly, I think it takes more courage to be vulnerable because everyone's so afraid of it, in my opinion.
I mean, I agree. Now, Shatika, how do you feel about that? I just want to get some, different perspective, because I do know when people do show emotions in certain instances, somebody be like,
that's because we
live just cancering all over the place.
Huh?
See, I'm a Pisces, so I get it. I'm a Pisces. So I definitely get it. And I think being the way I am, like my emotions are very intense. Like I'm either like, I'm not going to show emotion at all, or I'm going to be like really like however I'm feeling. So I think sometimes it's overwhelming for other people, especially like because I don't necessarily like show that side of me. Mm-hmm. Well, I do now, but like when I was first starting out, like actually like opening up, everybody was like, what is going on? Because like she does not cry. She does not like be like that's just not who she normally is. So I think for myself, like my reaction to that has been to kind of like shrink myself. So when I do get in moments where it's like I feel like either tears come in or I feel like a strong emotion, I'll kind of just like just go within, if that makes sense. And I think that kind of goes back to like losing like humanity. I know like if I talk about work, for example, who I am outside of work and who I am at work is two totally different people, because outside of work, I am very reckless with my mouth. I will say how I feel. I don't care. But because I know usually like, and let me say this, those traits in white men at my job, like perfect. Right. Like they're seen as leaders. They're seen as, oh, he knows how to get stuff done. And it's like, okay, cool. I do those same things and I always have conflict at work. So naturally, my way to go is just kind of like, be quiet. And like, okay, I'll keep that comment to myself. Like, it's cool, like to kind of shrink myself. And it's something that I'm working on because I feel like I shouldn't do that. I feel like I'm letting society kind of mold me, I guess,
Yeah.
But it's just been like a natural response. Like even in like schools, because I've kind of been going to like at least like either mixed or like more white schools. And every time I'm like fully 100% myself, I have conflict with someone. And I may not be trying to be rude. I may not even say anything rude, but if you say something too blunt as a Black woman, if you say, oh, this made me feel some type of way, or I don't like how you did this, it's like, oh, here she go again, being ghetto or being mean or being aggressive. And I hate that because every woman wants to be seen as like feminine, but not every, but like a lot of women want to feel feminine. They want to feel like women. And every time I hear those traits, I feel like I'm being like, not kind of like masculinized. Is that a word? Masculinized?
Sure.
We're gonna make it one.
Yeah, hard. Like,
yeah.
You can't be hard all the time. You know what I'm saying? You can't be hard cooking bacon and just be tense.
It's kind of like an insult sometimes to like my femininity, because I feel like you can be feminine and still stand up for yourself and still, be blunt and be honest. But as a Black woman, you can't really do those things, without
ruffling some feathers.
Ruffling feathers and then accepting like stereotypes,
I feel like that happens in the dating world as well, though.
Oh, no, definitely.
I wanted Taylor to go first before I said anything else.
Definitely.
Oh, no, definitely happens in the dating world too. Like, just how you're perceived, and like if this isn't a Black woman, but I just read a book, if y'all watch Indian Matchmaking, about like Aparna, who was like, oh, she's like difficult and she's picky, but no, she was like blunt and clear about what she wanted, and like she wasn't going to settle for somebody who treated her just any type of way. And I feel like oftentimes, like, especially like either both dating and in the workplace, it's like when Black women are blunt and just upfront about like what they want, how they're being treated, and how that's not okay. And just speaking up and advocating for themselves, then they're seen as like the angry one and always causing conflict, not a team player. But all these other people can do it. Like, I'll just never forget like my grad school experience where a Black woman was talking about racism in class. And this little white girl was just like, started crying and saying like, why do y'all hate us so much? And it's just like, no, she's just a Black woman who we've been socialized to like tame our feelings and like hold our tongue, especially in front of like white people, about like how we've been treated, when we have every right to be angry, every right to be upset, every right to be sad. And it doesn't matter that you yourself didn't explicitly own slaves, like you still benefit from the system that has been created, and you uphold it by not wanting to dismantle it because you don't want to experience what Black people experience, period. So we're policed by other people's tears, other people's yelling, other people's deeming us as like angry, when we're literally just advocating for ourselves and like just being upfront about what we want.
And I won't speak on my mother's behalf, but I'll just speak a little bit on what I've seen. My mother does work extremely hard. She's worked the same job for roughly almost 30 years now. But she hasn't become the so-called top honcho in a sense, because it's just one of those things where you can see that the way that the system is made, you can go to a certain height with a certain company, and at the end of the day, like we stated earlier, when you sacrifice some of your humanity, I feel like, as me being her child, it just became to the point where it was just like, I need to have a secure income to make sure that my children can get through what they need to get through. So I'm not going to just up and leave this job and transition to wherever I'm at. I'm going to stay where I'm at because I know it's going to be, something that's always coming in. So when you guys said that earlier, it really touched base with me because that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Another thing that came up for me when thinking about this topic are pregnant women when they go into labor, and how I've seen a lot of stories of women not making it out of the hospital, specifically Black women, because, and I don't know if it's because of the strong Black woman trope or what. Like, I don't know if they feel like we can take the pain or they don't believe us. I mean, I've seen
no, it's real. It's
yeah.
real.
No, it's studies out there that show that like they actually think like Black people don't feel pain the same way that others do. And I mean, I definitely think like the strong Black woman thing is like, as far as like childbirth, is kind of like wrapped up in that, because they don't really like, I don't really want to say it like this, but like they don't really see us as human, honestly, like a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's a reflection in like how many women die, like having kids, especially Black women die having kids.
Are we not the highest? Do we not have the highest rates of? Okay, I thought so.
Yes,
definitely. It's something that I'm terrified about. I'm not even gonna lie.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And even medical racism outside of childbirth too, because I distinctly remember like when my grandma went into the hospital, and like I was helping her with like her medications and stuff, and when she got out, like I noticed like one of her medications that she'd been taking 3 times a week had been moved to 3 times a day. And I called the doctor and I was like, hey, like, is this correct? Like, usually she takes this medication like 3 times a week. Is it like, is what the doctor said like correct with like 3 times a day? And like the nurse was like very dismissive of me. And yes, I was young. I was like a sophomore or junior in college, and like I don't have a medical degree, and I'm just gonna be like, okay, that the doctor knows best. But like when my grandma went to the doctor complaining that her medication made her feel funny because she didn't have the language to like really describe like what she was actually feeling, like they dismissed her, like they didn't care. They told her to keep taking the medicine the way she was taking it, and like she just kept getting sicker and sicker and ultimately ended up passing away. And I'm pretty positive that doctor made a mistake and didn't listen to the Black woman who spoke up and asked, like, is this correct? And didn't listen to the Black woman who's experiencing like all of these like terrible side effects from the medication, and didn't take like us seriously and just advocating for like, hey, we don't think this is right. But people, especially doctors who like have this position of authority to like speak on behalf of like how other people are feeling, like they're just like, no, 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 like I went to med school, like I read a medical textbook, like I know what I'm talking about, when Black women's lived experiences are often being minimized and dismissed, when it's like, yes, I know you went to school for however many years and I know you read a textbook, but I'm telling you, and I'm the expert of my own lived experience, what is happening and what is going on. And oftentimes that's dismissed.
Of it is also that like they don't really know how to talk to Black people. And like, because like I do think like that is a big cultural difference, like how we communicate with each other and stuff. Like if you see how Black people talk to Black people and like how, you know, other races talk to their own races, but like I think a lot of times they don't know how to like relate to us. And they like, you know, sometimes you meet older Black people and they're a little bit more aggressive because at that point they don't live their life. They don't care. They're gonna say what they say. They, you know, they can be a little mean sometimes. But to us, it's like, oh, that's kind of like normal. Like we can take it in stride and keep it moving. They get offended, they get mad, they get in their egos and forget sometimes like this is a patient, you know? You need to be explaining to them like their medication. You need to be explaining to them like just what needs to really be done, like really going in depth with like what's going on with their health and stuff like that. Like I like kind of going back to what Taylor said, like I know with my grandma, some of my aunts, even my mom, like they didn't fully understand what was happening to them and like what health issues that they had. They like doctors was just like, oh, like would just say like, oh, you da 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 da, you have this or da 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 da, and keep it moving, versus like sitting down with them like they do with other patients and actually explaining and like going a little further in depth. And I think it is like a little bit of like fear and stuff in there, and of course bias, but like they just don't know how to relate. And I feel like that's because they've never had to. Like we are the ones who always have to kind of like assimilate to their culture. They don't have to realize like, oh, okay, this person is saying this and maybe her tone sounds this way. Cause you know, like being from Charleston and stuff, Dashia. Are y'all from Charleston?
Oh, I ain't from Charleston for real now. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Oh.
You know that. I be masking them real good. I ain't gonna lie.
Say like being from Charleston, like when I left Charleston and I moved like in high school to North Carolina, and that's not even that far. It was a big cultural difference. Like the way we speak to each other, they would hear me and my sister say stuff and they're like, why y'all arguing? And I'm like, we're not arguing, like we chilling. Or like when I would say stuff to them, they'd be like, calm down. And I'm like, I'm chill. Like,
yeah.
I mean, does that have like a positive or negative effect on the culture though? Is it more positive or is it more negative with this connotation of strong Black woman?
I think negative, but you know.
I think negative because
Negative. Taylor, negative as well? No?
Yeah, negative.
Okay.
I'd say negative based on all the reasons we just listed.
Exactly.
All the biases that take place.
Okay, boom. Since we've all agreed it's negative, what can we do? What can be done to help shift it to become looked at in a more positive light? What can be done?
I think Black women just need to like take care of Black women. I'm sorry, but that's kind of where I'm at with everything, because I feel like I see Black women become the causes of so many like, not causes, like they stand behind all these other causes instead of ourselves sometimes. And like, that's why when people think of police violence and stuff like that, they don't think about Black women and the fact that we die just as often as Black men. They don't think about, like, you don't really hear about Black women dying in childbirth like on a mass scale as like you would hear other issues. I just feel like we don't take up for our own issues the way that other people do. And like, I feel like we go so hard for everybody else, but then when it's time for like that reversal, like where y'all at for Black women causes, it's like you don't hear it. And we get so many excuses. Like, I don't even want to bring it up, but like, it's like pretty much like some Black women who've gotten like killed, and like a lot of, I don't know if y'all have seen, like a lot of Black women are kind of getting killed by like partners or like stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen it. Everybody has seen it. It's just that it doesn't stay in the news for as long as it should stay in the news.
But it's not talked about, not as much as like when you think about a Trayvon Martin or George Floyd or like, you know what I mean? Like we hear those names, but when it comes to us, we get excuses like, but she shouldn't have been messing with white men. Like, what does that have to do with anything when
I'm sorry.
some of these Black men who get killed mess with white women too? Like, we don't, and I think because we are so used to sacrificing ourselves, we get out here and march for everybody else. But then when it comes to us, we just kind of be like, well, you know.
I was gonna say my argument for that whole she shouldn't have chose a white man. The comeback for that is Black women, if I'm not mistaken, have, if not the highest, one of the highest rates of femicide due to Black men. So let's stop it.
Hold up, can you break down that nice long SAT word you just said so people can understand? No,
Black women.
No.
No, I am.
Okay,
I am. Black women have the high. Black women are more likely to be killed by their partner, and more times than not, their partner is Black men. That's what I'm saying.
Because Black women don't date outside their race on the level of other races,
as a collective,
including Black men.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So when men say ignorant things like, "Well, she shouldn't have been out with Connor," it's like, well, sir, let's look at the research. What's really going on?
There's Black men named Connor, but I understand.
I don't know many. I don't know many.
I mean, that's because they usually go with an abbreviation like call me CJ or something like that. But anyway, let's continue.
Maybe, but I never
I didn't mean to pause you. Go ahead.
No. I pretty much covered everything I was saying.
Okay.
Well, Taylor, what are your thoughts on that?
I think for me, we just need more opportunities for Black women just to exist. And like, I saw this thing on Instagram and it was like, just this Black girl putting on lip gloss and it was just like, elevate like Black girls doing videos like this, the way y'all elevate white girls doing videos like this to show like range and like vulnerability and like, there's all types of way to be like a Black woman and like, just like, I don't know. Cause I remember growing up, like, I got the like, you're an Oreo, your hair's not as greasy as like the other Black girls. And like, I felt rewarded by distancing myself from Black women. And then by the time like I started embracing my Blackness, I felt like I didn't have representation of like different kind of like Black women to exist. So just more opportunities for a range of different Black women, Black people in general to just exist. Like elevate the Black women on roller skates and like Black women frolicking in fields. Like I just want to see all types of Black women just being themselves and like being unapologetically themselves, like being Black book nerds, being Black video gamers. Like I just want to see like all types of Black women just existing and like living and like loving life like the way they can. And I feel like when we see more images of that, we're not, I hate to say like this is like giving them more humanity, but that's a way to like return some of that humanity back to Black women.
Just kind of going off what you're saying, I think that's on Black women though, unfortunately, because who gonna give up their mules? You know what I mean? If you're the mules of society, nobody's gonna release you. Like, just being honest. Anytime Black women are called in.
Let's hear it. Yeah.
Huh?
Talk about it. You said nobody wants to give up their mules, right? So,
yeah, because if you are the one doing work and you're like, you know, you're taking care of stuff, you're holding stuff down, nobody's gonna be like, you know what, you need a break. Let me give you a break. No, they're gonna sit back and watch until you run yourself ragged. So I think it's on Black women too, and I see it a lot. I think it is happening, definitely. But it's on Black women to kind of like, you know, take off the shackles and be like, no, I'm not doing it. When we're asked something, say no. I've been saying no like crazy in 2022. It's been my favorite word. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think a lot of that responsibility is on us as individuals to check in on ourselves. But I would like for our community to check in on us, the men, like you said earlier.
Oh, Justin, do that. You know that.
I'm saying, saying the collective of men making sure to check in on people, and not just somebody you dating or, you know, like anybody that you're around, like just checking on them to make sure that they're okay. A question that I have is, or my last question, how are you guys actively practicing taking off your armor of being that strong Black woman?
Well, I already told you, I say no now. Like, because I used to kind of feel like an obligation to help everybody because I like seeing people succeed. Like, I'm not necessarily the nicest person, but I'm kind. So
that didn't sound convincing. Okay.
No, I'm being honest. Like, I come off a certain way. Like, people, when they first meet me, they would think like, oh, she's kind of like a mean girl. But like, the more you get to know me, it's like I'm so emotional. So like, if someone comes to me with their issues, it becomes my issues, and it's like, I could literally be good. Like, life is great for me, but as soon as someone like drops some stuff on me, I'm like, what can I do to help? Let's get this together. We're gonna figure this out. And so now I kind of like remove myself from that. I'm like, if you need my help, I don't just offer it, you know? If you like need my help, you'll ask. So I wait for them to ask. And then if I have something to give, I got you. If I am not at my like 100% self, I might say no. I think it's just about like protecting myself and like actually practicing self-care. So like kind of engaging with myself and saying like, hey, how are you today? Like, how is everything? Like, are you good? Instead of just like,
that's the ticket.
Making myself good for other people, you know? Because like I used to do that a lot, and like it got so draining, and that's why I kind of hit that point in my mental health where it was like, okay, something has to change, you know?
I think for me, I'm definitely a work in progress. God is still working on me. Therapy's been amazing. But I think for me, like trying to find opportunities of guilt-free rest has been helping. Of like, I stay so busy, and then one day, like, I felt so sick. I was like, am I getting COVID? Like, what is wrong with me? But all I need to do was sleep for 15 hours, and I was good the next day. And then I was like, I'm not doing that to my body again, where my body has to be like, all right, we shutting this shit down because you don't know how to shut it down. Yeah. So just finding opportunities of guilt-free rest, and finding things that like, saying yes to things that bring me joy. And if it's like obligations, like things I have to do, like load the dishwasher and do laundry or whatever, like find ways to like have that bring me joy. And figuring out that balance of like that two-way street of like not always being the person to provide support, but like seeking support when needed. Like it could look like, hey, I'm texting my friend like, hey, do you have the space to talk right now? Or it could be like, they asked me to do it at work, but like, I don't necessarily have to be the one to do it. I have interns doing homework right now. I can ask one of them to do it. So like finding ways to like free up time for myself, and not always having to be the one to do everything and be everything for everybody, and just like finding ways to show up for myself and like have that guilt-free rest and doing things that bring me joy.
I kind of like what you said at the end there. Like, I think that's also a big thing. It's just like asking for help and letting people do it. Because like, I will say I'm guilty of like, oh, can you do this for me? And then if they'll say, yeah, I'm expecting it to be done right then. Like,
well, hold up now, Shatika, hold up. You're on to something now. If they say, yeah, but it also depends on the tone. If they say, yeah, like they irritate you, say, oh, don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I feel like, I mean, I can do it myself, but if I asked you and you made a big deal about it, I'm not gonna ever ask you again. And then like now, and that's my issue. Like back to what you said, Dashia, about like that happens in dating too. That's my biggest issue probably with dating, is like I'll ask for help and try to make myself feminine and receive help. And like literally every time, like they either don't do it right, or they like, and I could tell like they probably, I won't say they on purpose didn't do it right, but like they just didn't care enough to like really think about how to do things right, or they just kind of make a big deal about it. And so I'd be like, all right, I'll do it. And then next thing I hear is like, you're emasculating, or like you just won't let a man be a man, or like you like, it's just like, well, I mean, I can't let you be like, I can't let you be anything. Either you are or you aren't.
I mean, I feel like the only reason why I rolled my eyes to that, because I feel like a lot of guys have been saying that as well. You took a deep breath. A lot of guys have been saying that a deep breath as well. I feel like you have to feel safe enough to be soft, in my opinion. And if I don't feel safe with you, then I guess we just gonna be two masculine people together. I don't know what to tell you.
Honestly,
I'm just saying.
I'm with you, honestly.
Masculine together. How does that look?
I don't feel like
I feel like that's a lot of clashing.
What I'm saying is a lot of men specifically Black men, have said that Black women are too, modern day women, whatever, are too masculine. And then, but they never can describe to me, what does that look like? And so what you just said is, you ask someone to do something, they don't do it right, or they don't do it at all, and you do it for yourself, and they're like, well, you emasculated me. Well, sir, make it make sense.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, it could be the most basic thing. I could ask for, like, hey, my car is out of commission. Can I get a ride to the airport? The day comes, I'm not hearing from you, so I just call an Uber. And then, why didn't you, like, wait on me? Miss my flight? Like, no.
Yeah.
When you could have just, like, checked in, you could have done what I asked you to do, you know?
Yeah.
Don't expect me to ask when you're not really gonna, like, give your 100% for something. And then, like, on the reverse, when you ask me, because that's just kind of like my nature. Like, if you're in my circle, you're in my life, like, I'm gonna go hard for you. Like, whatever you need, I will do it for you, pretty much, you know? So even though I'm cutting back on that, but I don't necessarily see that a lot with, like, other people, especially men. So it's just a little frustrating, but you know.
Yeah. One thing I was going to add was, I forgot my own question. How am I actively taking off that armor? So I've been trying to reevaluate the way that I show up for people, or how I am, because I think sometimes the strong Black woman thing, you take it as a badge of honor, or when people say, oh, you love so hard, you take it as a badge of honor almost, but it's like, do you love hard, or do you lack boundaries? And that was my issue. I will set the boundaries, but then they'll, like, step over them just a little bit, and I'll be like, well, it's okay.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
It could be one of the biggest things. I am very particular about my time. And I don't like two things. I don't like people who are always late, but I really hate people who are flaky.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't like for you to say you're going to do something and then you don't do it. I don't like the lack of follow through.
Guess what shine she is? No guesses. Anybody?
Taurus.
I thought you.
Boom! Damn!
Yeah.
Sure they do it though. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm a
no,
Taurus.
don't say that. Don't say that. You know what I'm saying? It took her a while, so she wasn't sure, but she knew. You know what I'm saying?
No, I relate to that though, and I'm not even a Taurus, but like I relate to. I can't speak on the late part because I be late, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm always late, but I will always show up and I will make it up to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't just show up late, like whatever, you know. Yeah. But the flaky part.
And
yeah,
I'm not flaky. I'll just say no up front.
exactly.
I prefer that. But yeah, like just trying to reevaluate these labels that other people give me, and whether or not I should really be taking them on as a badge of honor, or things I need to actually question. Like, what does this mean, and what does this look like for me to show up for people in one way, but it is not reciprocated, whether that's in my job, whether that's with friends, and especially when it comes to dating. So I feel like that's what I'm doing right now. I'm in the process of that.
No, I think I kind of had a little like journey with like
nothing.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Shatika.
No, I was gonna say like I kind of had that like journey like with, I guess, like healing myself from like other people's labels and like their opinions, because like I really did see myself as like mean and aggressive and manly, but then I had to like sit with myself and I'm like, you're really none of those things. Like I'm not manly at all. I'm just maybe like a sassier woman, but like that doesn't make me masculine, you know? And like I will say, like I felt a bit disconnected from like my femininity and like my womanhood a bit because of that. But kind of like after like sitting with myself and really thinking about like, who are you? Not like who everybody else thinks you are, like what they're saying. That kind of did help me too. Like I also reevaluate like being the strong Black woman, or like how I show up for other people and for myself. Yeah.
I was also going to add, trying to learn to accept my body for what my body looks like, because I am on a health journey, or have been on a health journey, and I moved to Wakanda, aka ATL, 6 months ago, and it is the land of BBLs.
Oh Lord.
And so it's like, yeah, that's his own conversation, but Black women come in all shapes, sizes, personalities, and just accepting you for whatever version that looks like. basically.
That is a good point to touch on, because I will say, like, I'm not like short, but I am petite. So I think sometimes, like, even when people try to like make me feel masculine, it's like you kind of really can't, you know? I think it was more like a.
What do you mean, like, I'm confused. You mean
I'm gonna get there.
She said sure.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, I'm short. Yeah, like, you know, and I'm petite, but like I think about, like, for example, Meg Thee Stallion. The way they try to like make her manly, and she's none of that. She's just a confident woman who happens to be taller. But like all you hear is like, oh, that's a man, or she comes off manly. Her face look a little manly, and it's like it's nothing manly about that woman. But you're looking at her stature and trying to like
get into colorism too, though, because her and Rihanna are the same exact height.
Exactly.
So, yeah, but
exactly. Yeah. Or even like Serena Williams or something like that. Like it's like the more Black you are, I won't say the more Black you are, but like the blacker features and stuff you have, and like if you're bigger or something or taller as a woman, I feel like your femininity is like instantly stripped away. Especially if you don't come off soft and like, oh, I'm quiet or da-da-da. If you're like bold and like you have an opinion, you're a man. And it's like that's not what being a man is.
No, I agree. Listen, I completely agree, especially on the height thing, or even with natural hair. Dudes will say, why y'all got all those weaves and wigs? But sir, you want me to be natural, but you want me to have loose curls at the same time. Make up your mind.
I don't say that.
And like my mom thinks my tattoos are manly and my dreadlocks, like.
And that's the thing, on Black women, they're seen as manly. On other women, it's like, oh, that's sexy. Like think about, for example, this is like my biggest pet peeve. Like when I think about like Black woman traits on like a non-Black woman, Latinas versus Black women. Oh, you're spicy if you're Latina. You're sexy, like, oh, caliente, and you know, all of that. But when you a Black woman, it's like, damn, she nags so much, or oh, she's just crazy, or you know, and it's like, so y'all like our qualities, just not on us. So if you got an issue, it's really that you have an issue with like Black women, not how we act or who we are, you know?
Or they just have some deep-rooted mommy issues that they refuse to unpack and heal from. But you know.
Okay, we're not diagnosing nobody on this show.
I didn't diagnose them.
I mean, it's fact though. She's right. A lot of it is that.
Okay.
I mean, I will say a lot of those guys that we allegedly may say that have those said issues or problems, they be mama's boys most of the time.
I also think about just how I always come back to the Kendrick Lamar song Fear, about like how he's talking about like his mom like instilling all this fear in him in order to like prepare him for the world, to navigate the world as a Black man. And like I feel like a lot of Black moms especially, but Black parents like do a lot of these things to instill fear, just like the little things. Like my grandparents told me like I wasn't allowed to like look back if there's a police officer behind, like driving behind us in the car. I wasn't allowed to like look back at them. I did it one time, we were pulled over. I never did that again. But like even just like the little things like, oh, you can't drive with the lights on at night because you're gonna get pulled over. Just like all these things to instill fear in us, that conditions us to have all this like hardened demeanor and communication and the way we present ourselves in order to like protect ourselves navigating the world as a Black person, let alone as a Black woman. Like all these things we have to do to protect ourselves that comes across as like aggressive or mean, but it's like survival at the end of the day for us.
But I feel like Black women, we don't get passes on stuff like that. Like I feel like with Black men, when you hear their story, it's like, well, I'm a Black man in America, blah, blah, blah. But then when Black women say that, it's just like, kind of goes in one ear, not the other. Like we say like why we are a certain way. And it's like, well, y'all need to change. So like, you know, instead of just like, oh, okay, I understand that. Like, I see where you're coming from. We don't get that level of support or understanding in the society like at all.
Yeah, and what I will say though is you hit on it earlier when it becomes, when it goes back to, it has to start with the Black women in that specific community, because many more times than often, the people that are tearing down Black women are other Black women. And I'm just sitting there like, hold up now, like we gotta help we gotta help the situation. Yes, Black men, we do have to help as well, but it doesn't help when other Black women are sitting here tearing them down, now Black men that may have been borderline trying to do better are seeing another Black woman tear another one down. I'm like, well, I guess what I was saying has some truth to it. And it's like, in all actuality, it doesn't.
Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, I kind of think that sounds like the Black on Black crime argument.
That's what I was gonna say.
Like, yes, it's like Black woman on Black woman crime, but at the same time, like, their forces, the way I think of it is like, it's all patriarchy, like notions of patriarchy, internalized racism. That's what's at play, not necessarily like just a Black woman against a Black woman and how that like is perceived, but like how we have been socialized by men to see like these are the traits that are desirable, and I'm going to police other women when they're not doing those traits. I think that goes back to masculinity, patriarchy, and men.
I also think that whole idea of like, oh, a Black woman needs to police other Black women, and because that's like, oh, that's why we treat y'all the way we treat y'all. Like, it's dehumanizing, because at the end of the day, it's quite as simple as the fact that like Black women hang with other Black women. So if there's drama, they're going to have drama with other Black women because that's in your circle. I don't think people look at it the same as like, okay, for example, like Jersey Shore or something like that. They was wild on that show. Like, they was doing crazy stuff. It was a lot of drama, fighting and all that, but that's just seen as like friends. They like having drama within themselves versus like Love and Hip Hop or something like that, which is a similar type of show, but it's Black women kind of going at it. And of course, I don't necessarily support that image of us being, you know, the negative stereotypes and stuff. But at the end of the day, like, if people are a certain way, like they involve themselves in drama and their circle is their circle, that's just kind of what's, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily maybe Black women going at Black women to tear down another Black woman. That's their circle. So who else they gonna tear down? Like, I mean,
I mean, I understand what you're saying, because at the end of the day, if that's who they're hanging with, then that's just what's gonna happen. And what I mean by regulate is more like try to keep stuff more in-house. That's my biggest thing. I feel like a lot of stuff doesn't stay in-house, and it's not just with Black women, with our community as a whole. A lot of stuff will get out of house, and then other folks have so much input about, oh, this is the way y'all need to conduct yourselves. And it's crazy because in other, you know, ethnicities or other ethnic groups, when they do have conflict, it's resolved, but I feel like we're looked at more of a microscope for some reason. You know, so it's unfortunate, but yeah.
I feel like we're looked at like that because we shape culture. Anytime an app comes out, we take it and dominate it. And so with that is going to come the positive stuff, the dances, the products and all of that, but also the drama. And so I feel like it's like taking the good with the bad, but
And to me,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, to me, that sounds more of a perception issue instead of like why are we seeing this? It's like, oh, like why Black people got so much extra drama when, like you were saying, Shatika, like it's like just friends. Like, why are we perceiving it as like this bigger thing than, or like making it like this negative thing when it's just like people doing what everybody else do?
And if we want to be honest, it's a little on us sometimes too, because I feel like I see a lot of Black people complain about shows like that because I think we're so, or like even shows like music, anything that kind of like is showing Black people in a bad light. Even though some of those things are real, like you do have Black women who are ghetto or who are like loud and they act that way, and that's just who they are. I think because we care so much about how white people view us, we sometimes demonize those qualities and those traits that are in our community, you know? And I think if we didn't do that sometimes, they wouldn't have anything to like hold over our heads too. Like it wouldn't be, oh, well, let me do like, I'm trying to think. Like the way they kind of like mock us in movies and stuff like that. And like, even though I don't agree with them doing that, because one, they're profiting off of personality traits of some Black women and they don't deserve that profit. But I think because we demonize it so bad, it's like something that's they can hold over our heads, you know? If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think there's space for everybody to exist the way that they do. I don't feel the need to tell people don't act like that because they're gonna think that we are this way. because they have the freedom to live how they want to live. And no one
Exactly.
says, oh, look at them doing this. No, I'm not gonna say Connor again, but it's just, it's this person doing whatever it is that they're doing. So thank you, Shatika and Taylor, for joining us for this conversation. Comment below what your thoughts are on how we can allow Black women to give themselves a little more grace. I have been Dashia D.
And it's been Jay Stan.
And come back on Friday at noon.
Yeah, and always remember to like, comment, and subscribe.
All right.